I think they have great respect for each other.
Some protesters think tourism has gone too far in a city of 1.7 million people. AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma.
Protesters use water guns against unsuspecting tourists in the popular city and on the Spanish island of Mallorca as groups demand a rethink of an economic model they believe is fueling a housing crunch and erasing the character of their hometown. Protester Marina Salahuya tells the AP there's a necessity to change the monoculture of tourism because it's obviously very easy to make money out of tourism, but it has a very strong negative impact on the local population. Firstly, because there is a process of precariousness when it comes to jobs. While Andrea Martinez, an administrative assistant, explains the squirt guns are to bother the tourists a bit. He says Barcelona has been handed to the tourists. There is a fight to give Barcelona back to its residents.
A German court has sentenced a Syrian doctor to life imprisonment for torture and war crimes in his Syrian homeland. That's for killing 2 people and torturing 9 in Syria between 2011 and 2012. This is AP News. A 3-time All-Star and former World Series champion is on the move in a surprising trade. Correspondent Gethin Coolbaugh.
The Boston Red Sox have traded Rafael Devers to the San Francisco Giants in a blockbuster deal. ESPN reported that the package of players going back to the Red Sox includes starter Jordan Hicks and left-hander Kyle Harrison. Devers is one of baseball's most feared hitters. He is batting .272 with 15 homers and 58 RBIs in 73 games after he connected for a solo drive in Boston's 2-0 victory over the rival New York Yankees on Sunday. I'm Gethin Coolbaugh.
Global shares have advanced and oil prices have fallen back slightly as Iran unleashed a fresh wave of missile attacks on Israel. Israel's attack on Iranian nuclear and military targets caused the price of oil to surge more than 7% on Friday, since Iran is one of the world's major producers of oil. I'm Haya Panjwani, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly sunny skies here for today with a high in the mid-80s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 15 miles per hour. Then for tonight, partly cloudy, a low near 68. By Tuesday, a chance for showers and storms here late. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops, high around 90 degrees. Wednesday, chance for rain and storms, a high of 82. By Thursday, sunny, high of 83 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 64.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Great, it's yours. See you then.
Nathan's Tiki-themed bar is swimming in end-of-year party bookings.
Where can I find that many servers? They want headlamps? And I'm going to need to find a band.
He needs caterers to navigate the rising tide.
No, Mario, not your cousin's cover band.
Indeed can help him hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. We instantly connect you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Chicago's progressive talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew.
Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives, and welcome to the June 16th, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. That is our Credo mobile phone and text line. Catch me on Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, and iHeartRadio. Email me at richard@wcpt820.com. and catch me on Substack. I will most likely get something posted this week on Substack. Make sure you catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. There you can get Choose Views, our short versions and long versions. You know what that means. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath. Out Chicago, and our other shows and interviews. And most definitely make your way over to heartlandsignal.com for all of our great articles and stories there on our digital platform. I saw that our good friend Natalie Ziemba, who's the councilwoman from Woodstock, Illinois, and Patty were hanging out this weekend at a Pride event, and they posted a picture. And as always, they look energized and fantastic. So it was great to see the two of them out there. But check this out, progressives.
We got criticized. President Obama was criticized for being the deporter in chief. If you look at what it is that we did, we used the courts to get people who have recently come to the United States, the immigration courts, get them out. And then we went after people who committed serious crimes. We didn't take 4-year-old girls who were potentially going to die and deport them to Mexico. We didn't take people who'd been here. There was a waitress, I think, in Missouri, been here for 20 years, pull her out of her, place of employment and try to send her back. This is an administration that views certain immigrants in certain ways. If these people were trying to get in from Norway, from Sweden, from Finland, from Northern European countries, any problem with that, I bet. Afrikaners, we're letting those folks in from South Africa. But if you happen to be Hispanic, if you happen to be a person from Haiti, from African countries, we don't want those people. They don't want those people in this country, and that's kind of the underpinnings of their immigration policy, and that's why Miller talks about this clash of civilizations.
So you think it's racism, pure and simple?
Not pure and simple, but there's a component to that. I mean, racism, ethnicism, I guess, that you might call it. You'd have to be reluctant to look at that which is fairly obvious, you send a plane to get, I don't know, was it 50, 60 Afrikaners out of South Africa? You insult the president of South Africa.
You show a photo from Congo?
From Congo. That's got nothing to do with South Africa. It's all laying a predicate for the kinds of things that they want to do with our immigration system. Again, inconsistent with how America has always said it is, and by and large, how we've always conducted ourselves when it comes to immigration.
That was former Attorney General Eric Holder sitting with Katie Couric talking about what? Immigration, but more specifically, the bias that the Trump administration has caused, is operating under, and has caused chaos. Clearly, the Biden and the Obama administrations did both exactly what Eric Holder said. More folks were deported, but deported in a proper way, and also in, if you can use this word, a somewhat humane way that says we've got to do this based on our laws, but we're not going to. What we aren't going to do, going back to the conversation around due process, is we're not going to do this and look like fools doing it, and more importantly, we're going to still maintain our humanity, or try to maintain humanity for those who we unfortunately have to deport. Mayor Brandon Johnson here in Chicago talked about the importance of us as progressives, as liberals, as Democrats, as Americans. We have to reclaim and take back control of humanity. This is our opportunity now to show humanity. And I would say that that Eric Holder is spot on, and he was there living in real time. But good to be back, guys. Today, on today's show, our guests will include Dr. Lauren Smith from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, talking about a really interesting report this month, this Pride Month. And Mike Nellis, political strategist, will be with us. So stay tuned for those two guests in the 7 o'clock and 7:30 hour. Speaking of guests, last week we were honored to have Sarah Jones with us from Politicus USA, Rich Logis from Leaving MAGA, We had Robin Steens, who was a guest with us, talking about what's happening with our educational systems, and Addie Zwick talking about climate. Our good friend Kurt Mullett from Hoosier Blue 63, Reverend Wilson from Operation Push, historian Michelle Duster was with us on Thursday, and then Friday, who else other than Michelle Peltier was here sitting in for me when I was out of town. And she had Karen Burns stop by, calling in, as well as some of you guys who were phoning in as well. So I appreciate Michelle for being here on Friday, sitting in for me. I appreciate Devin making sure everything was running smoothly, as he and Henry and Lady B and Paul always do, to make sure that our shows stay on the rail. But I was away in D.C., Northern Virginia, visiting, and some of you were kind enough to comment on. I did what I rarely do, Devin. I recorded one of those. I recorded a video, and then I posted it on Instagram. I did a reel, Dev. I did a reel, and I posted it on Instagram because my brother-in-law and sister and I we went to the Marine Corps Historical Museum at Quantico Marine Corps Base, and that was a ton of fun. And you can't, like any museum, really, the great museums, and this would fall under that category as a great museum. You can't see it all in one day or 1 week, for that matter. You can go back 6 consecutive days and still have something that you miss, because it's amazing history. It's just amazing history. It was a cool thing to do. And if you've ever driven down I-95 and you've gone by Quantico, you'll see this huge, massive structure from the highway going north or going south on 95 in that part of Virginia. And it is a representation of the soldiers who were planting the flag at Iwo Jima. And it's the angle of the flag, and then it shows it. It's big and beautiful. And then, of course, when you get to the museum and you get to go inside, you see all of the memorabilia and the stories. So we got a chance to do that on this particular weekend of celebrating the military and Father's Day. So it was cool to hang out with my sister and brother-in-law and hang out with them for, particularly given what was going on in our country and the greater world. Both of them have served, and they're proud veterans, and they represent that patriotism that we talk about. We hear a lot of people try to, co-op patriotism, as only one group of people gets to live it, and they are a living example of no. These are true patriots. So that was great, and got a chance to grab a lot of information and content that I think you guys will be good to hear this today and throughout the course of this week, and different things that we're going to be covering. Man, oh man, oh man. I'm going to say this before we go to this break. The president, Donald Trump, as a dude that sits in the White House, is an embarrassment, flat out. He's an embarrassment to the country. He's an embarrassment to his family. Whether they care or not is another story. And he's an embarrassment to the world right now. And he has been for a long time, but he particularly is so now. There's some simple math. If we take the amount of money, the $134 million from what I'm reading, and the $40-ish million that was spent on the parade, and the 134 was the projected number of what's happening in Los Angeles with military forces being brought up. You take that money and you call it $180 million, and you take the top 10 Republican cities in the top 10 or 10 Republican states that voted for him. So what's that? 180 million divided by 10 is 18 million. Is that some simple math, Devin? All right. Take that $18 million and put it into the system of the 10 top most populated Republican voting cities in the country. And how much better would those cities be? How much better off would those cities be with that $18 million? And that's not, depending on how you look at it, it's not a ton of money, but it's a ton of money. Infused into preschool programs or after-school programs or programs for seniors or fixing the roads in those particular cities. And the list can go on of the different things that money could be used for. And so that's why when I hear people want to continually criticize Democrats for not doing enough, saying enough, acting in a certain way enough, I push back because I can say this is what they voted for. That $18 million in 10 cities in America, Republican cities in America, leading voting Republican cities that voted for Donald Trump, that $18 million could go a long way to help those cities improve. So that's why he's an embarrassment. He's an embarrassment to the people that voted for him. He's an embarrassment to the country at large. He's an embarrassment in the world right now. When we come back from this break, we are going to lean into a couple of items. We've got some great clips I want to share with you guys. And we'll keep on going like we always do. The number is 773-763-9278. The lines will be open. We'd love to hear from you, hear what you have to say. Push back, give me something new to talk about, whatever it might be. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Celebrate the culmination of Pride Month in Chicago by attending the Chicago Pride Parade, a celebration of love and unity on Sunday, June 29th. This year's theme, United in Pride, highlights the power of coming together, embracing our diversity, and championing love and equality as one united force. Together, we are unstoppable. You can watch anywhere along the route, from Broadway and Grace to Diversey and Sheridan. For more information, visit pridechicago.org and make sure to keep your eyes out for the WCPT float. If you can't attend the parade in person, you can listen live as Scott Duff and Ellen Miller describe all the excitement on WCPT 820 on Sunday, June 30th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. The WCPT Live Parade broadcast is sponsored by the Center in Halstead and by Credo Mobile, a progressive phone company that is better for all people and the planet. Visit credomobile.com. WCPT 820, your Pride station in Chicago.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
It's Choose View with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to Choose View, 773-763-9278. Give us a call. Let's make our way over to some Choose Views news this Monday, June 16th, 2025. Corporate leaders mark Pride Month amid intensified political pressure to refrain from spending on programs associated with diversity, equity, inclusion. Pride Month is underway. And while some corporate displays of pride are more muted this year, and event organizers say sponsorships are down, other companies are embracing the opportunity to pronounce their allyship. Below, executives and professionals have all over the country been finding their different ways to celebrate Pride. Deloitte staff gets $1,000 for Lego. Deloitte has updated its employee perks to offer a $1,000 well-being subsidy for things like gym memberships, and it's right there in fine print. Legos and puzzles, according to Business Insider, which cites internal policy documents. The Big Four firms' U.S. staff are joking around about having an excuse to buy pricey sets such as Star Wars, Millennia, Falcon, BI reports, citing anonymous sources, but also vouching for Lego as a relief from stress of accounting and consulting jobs. How about that? Top retailers. Now, this one, I'm not quite sure how I am about this. Amazon, Walmart, and other major corporations are exploring the possibility of issuing their own stable coins in what would be a shock to the traditional system of credit card payments, according to the Wall Street Journal. Embracing crypto could save companies billions of dollars in fees and allow them to process payments more quickly, but it would also likely spook the nation's banks. I agree, it's going to spook a lot of consumers as well. Nobody wants to be, putting their security in that space. Any decision by retailers, though, will depend on the Genius Act, a proposed bill to regulate stablecoins, and I fully agree with that. The risk of clicking unsubscribe. This is one that we all face when we have lots of apps on our phones and things that we follow on our computers. Forget newsletter subscriptions. Questionable credit card offers. Sales alerts from retailers you can't remember buying anything from. Our email inboxes are often in need of some spring cleaning. But don't be so quick to hit the click to unsubscribe button in the email. According to cybersecurity firm DNS Filter, 1 out of every 644 clicks, on unsubscribe buttons leads to potentially unsafe websites. In other words, dragging you down the proverbial rabbit hole. Experts say using your email provider's own unsubscribe function or simply marking the emails as spam is safer. And I agree. A legend passed away. Cosmetics heir Leonard Lauder dies. The billionaire heir to the cosmetic empire Estee Lauder died Saturday at 92. For nearly 90 years, Lauder ran the company his parents founded, overseeing major brand launches and acquisitions. Took the company public in 1995. Probably what a lot of people don't know about him is, together with his brother Ronald, they co-founded the Alzheimer's Drug Discovery Foundation, ADDF, in honor of their mother, Estee Lauder's battle with Alzheimer's disease. And for you moviegoers, Dragon tops the box office with $83 million for its opening weekend. Universal's live-action remake, which cost about $250 million to make and market, will take in about $83 million, according to the weekend numbers. So there you go. A little bit of everything for everybody on this Monday, June 16th, 2025. All right. As I said before we went to the break, our president is an embarrassment. Donald Trump, however you want to call him, whatever you want to call him or refer to him, he's an embarrassment right now. And this parade that went down this weekend, we can have some fun with it and laugh at it. And to some extent, we probably should, so that we feel less stressed about the awful spectacle that it was. But Donald Trump is an embarrassment to our country. And let me give, I took a beat, and I said, before I make any comments about a particular thing, I wanted to make sure I bring some sensitivity to the conversation. And I said in my own mind, I wonder, how long is it going to take for Donald Trump to, as the phrase goes, show his rear end? And it didn't take very long. What am I talking about? Well, as we all know by now, unfortunately, we as a country suffered the loss of folks in Minneapolis or in Minnesota, and 2 others were injured because of this dude Bolter, who decided he wanted to rain some terror on people. I could refer to this dude as a domestic terrorist. Many people should, because the manhunt that went on for him and all the other resources that were spent, we could refer to him as a domestic terrorist. But the media is not going to do that. More than likely they won't. You won't see them touch the third rail on that. And then the reason why, in my observation, and again, this is my opinion. So for someone that gets their undies in a bundle about Richard says what he's about to say, you just got to deal with it. The reason that the media is not going to refer to this dude as a domestic terrorist, because let's be honest, he had a list. He was ready to make the rounds, Devin. He was going to go from different homes. He was going to go to some businesses. He was going to go to some care facilities. That's terrorism. But he's not going to be, he's been captured. He's not going to be referred to as such by the mainstream media because he is a white dude, a cis white dude in America. That is the reason why. He had a list. He was about to commit further acts of harm and kill more people. That's terrorism. Do you think the people that live in the communities where this took place weren't concerned? Why would the state of Minnesota put out a shelter in place if there weren't a fear of this guy committing more acts of violence and killing more people? But why do I say this in the conversation around Donald Trump as an embarrassment to the country? I pressed pause on my thinking about this over the past couple of days because I wanted to see how he was going to really react when he was pressed, meaning Trump. What was he really going to say? And it didn't take much time for him to use it as a way to politically grind on Governor Tim Walz. He was asked by ABC whether he plans to call Governor Walz following the shooting. And Trump's response was, well, it's a terrible thing. I think he's a terrible governor. He went right to that, Devin. Listen to this, y'all. Well, it's a terrible thing. I think he's a terrible governor. I think he's a grossly incompetent person. But I may call him. I may call other people too. He is unfit for office, y'all. This is a person that is an embarrassment to every single person in the United States of America, and that includes you MAGA voters. Because people died, and this guy was on a political and socially conservative witch hunt to commit mass murder. And the second comment in the statement, that Tim Walz is a terrible governor. He can't help himself, y'all. He has to touch the hot stove, Devin. He does. He has to reach up there and touch it. And there's no person that I would talk to. There's no person that can, let me put it this way. I doubt that there's a person that I could talk to that would convince me otherwise. Because if, as a president of the United States, you care about, or you say you care about, all of our citizens, whether they voted for you or not, which you should, then at a time of death like this, that was public, that used a lot of the public airways and our mental resources and our emotional resources to navigate through this, and God help the folks who were there, who were in that community while this guy was still on the run. If you can't find it in yourself to say nothing negative, he didn't have to say anything positive, but to say nothing negative, that is the sign of not only an unfit, talk about gross, an unfit person for the office, but just a person acting in the most gross and disgusting ways. Didn't even have the capacity to say anything about, what can I do with the governor to help the families and the community? Nothing. And that to me is when I hear people that are MAGA supporters, the GOP at large. See, this is where the Republican Party, the nationally elected officials should come down on Donald Trump if they had a spine. There should be enough Republicans that still have some spine. Let me put it this way. Let me say it this way. For those guys who are Republicans that are elected to the House and to the Senate, if your fathers are no longer with you, hopefully during their lifetime, you guys had a wonderful relationship, but I hope your fathers are embarrassed for you not having a spine to step up and stand up to this guy and say to him, that's enough, Donald Trump. And there's a list of other things that they should have already done that in his first term and now in this second term. But I would hope that your fathers, if they are deceased, would be saying back to you, where's the strength? The so-called vaunted strength of the Republican Party. It doesn't exist. It does not exist. If it did, they would be less concerned about their careers and their next elections and all this other garbage, and they would be standing up for the people who helped get them elected. Unless, and this is the part that's scary, I don't literally mean scary, but this is the part that needs to be paid attention to. Unless those voters actually feel the same way, that those voters in those congressional districts and those voters in those Senate, those state senators' seats feel the same way, or U.S. senator seats, I'm sorry. Donald Trump is a disgrace to this country, period. And I hope it frustrates the hell out of some of you MAGAs and GOP listeners. I really do. And some of you that are want to call yourself moderate Republicans, Donald Trump is a disgusting disgrace. I'll add a modifier to that. Unapologetically, because he is. He should be able to stand up and be supportive when there's loss like this, but he doesn't have the capacity to do it. Let's take a quick break, Devin. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo mobile phone and text line. We'll be right back.
In the city of Chicago, we all know June is two things: Pride Month and the heart of Chicago baseball. Here are some MLB baseball teams that are supporting Pride. Let's start in our home city of Chicago. The Cubs are once again hosting their Pride celebration and giving away Pride-themed jerseys. And the Chicago White Sox are going to be hosting Pride Night, giving away Pride-themed hats. Here are some teams following in the Cubs' footsteps with Pride-themed jerseys: the Cardinals, the Orioles, the Nationals, the Diamondbacks, the Twins, the Marlins, the Red Sox, and the Dodgers. And some teams are also following in the White Sox with Pride-themed hats: the Phillies, the Angels, and the Reds. The Seattle Mariners will be giving away a Pride-themed Stanley, while the Houston Astros are giving away a Pride-themed puffer jacket. And the Kansas City Royals are giving you a Pride-themed pack with several Pride items. And the Colorado Rockies are giving away Pride sunglasses. Whether you're a Go Cubs Go or a Go Go White Sox, we all know one thing: that love is love, and June is Pride Month. Happy Pride Month from WCPT, everyone. And this has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly sunny skies here for today with a high in the mid-80s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 15 miles per hour. Then for tonight, partly cloudy, a low near 68. By Tuesday, a chance for showers and storms here late. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops, high around 90 degrees. Wednesday, chance for rain and storms, a high of 82. By Thursday, sunny, high of 83 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 65.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
Good morning. You're waking up with Richard Chu.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
We're live and ready to hear from you. Text or call us now at 773-763-9278. Same number. Simple as that. Let's get the conversation going on WCPT 820. Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressives, welcome back to Choose Views. Thanks for being with us this morning. Of course, the call-in number is 773-763-9278. And you can also catch us on all of our other spaces and places. You can catch us on YouTube, most definitely. You can get our Apple Podcasts and Spotify Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and TuneIn Radio. So there you go. Spread the word. All right, Devin, let's grab a couple of quick calls. Let's go to Big Art here in Chicago. Big Art, good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning to you, Rich. How are you?
I'm great, man. Good to hear your voice. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay.
What's going on?
Really, really well. Well, I wanted to agree with you about Mr. President's embarrassment. He is a moron. He's just an unethical moron and a political imbecile. I mean, even in red states, when things go bad or there's a disaster, you have no comment about it from him, no compassion, nothing. Because he's so busy making all these deals, and it's just, have you noticed, Rich, when he talks about making a deal, it's usually the person he's trying to make a deal with, whether it's a country or some particular person, if they got a gun to their head.
Yeah,
it's always that. It's always a godfather. I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse, or
it's
somebody got a gun to their head. Yeah,
it's like a bullying role. He never, and this is the first term during his, whining and moaning during President Biden's term. And again, now he always takes the position that he is the smartest guy in the room and he's going to bully his way through when in fact he is the least smart person in the room. I won't say he's the dumbest. He's the least smartest person in the room. And he is, he sets himself up to be punched in the face because of the way in which
embarrass himself or embarrass the country.
Exactly, and he.
Look what was. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to help me out. I'm having a little brain fog.
What's that?
The president of Ukraine when he went to the White House.
Yeah, when he was there back in March when he went to the White House. Yeah,
exactly. Look at it. He had a little rabbit under his hat. He already had this plan and things going. He went there to get help from the United States.
The drone attack that he did tell Trump about.
And they tried to embarrass him. And you have some clown in the peanut gallery talking about don't you own a suit? And not long after that, you see Kid Rock in his all-American clown suit in the White House, right next to the president. And they say, okay, where was this guy talking about Mr. asking Kid Rock? Where's his suit at? You know, and it's like you embarrass yourself trying to bully him and embarrass him, and he end up putting your pie in your face, J.D. Vance's face, Putin's face, and it's like, okay, I don't understand the full details of, and I probably we never will find out what's going on with Israel and Iran, how that all happened. We know he tore up Barack's deal that they put together with Russia and all the big players. He just tore it up because the black guy made it happen, and it's just sad. This man, I just don't understand why. Maybe you can explain it to me why. Because if this is me, if I was Joe Biden or Barack or anybody who came and was president after 2020, I would immediately call the head of the Secret Service and said, look, I'm getting ready to arrest this guy for insurrection. Yeah. He called down to Mar-a-Lago, talked to the head guy down there, and let him know we're coming. Well, if Merrick Garland didn't want to go along with it, he would have been immediately fired, and I would have got somebody with some fire in his belly. And I would have said, look, I'm on alert. We're going to be on alert. If MAGA wants to get their AR-15s and start attacking things, I'm going to do martial law, and then I'm going to do a shoot to kill. We're not having this. We're not having it.
Well, there's a lot of people that I can say, Big Art, that feel similarly in terms of what should have happened. I have said for a long time.
I know it sounds violent, but look at what's going on, Rich, man.
No, I know, and I'm not trying to change your thought process. I'm just sort of enhancing what you just said. And let me make the point to your point.
Go ahead.
A lot of people felt that President Biden could or should have replace Merrick Garland because he didn't bring the heat that was necessary for the moment. I feel that way. I've said that on the air. I've said that publicly, that at a certain point, and that Joe Biden was being Joe Biden, which is being a institutionalist and a constitutional, person and all those things.
Yeah,
we understand
nice
that. And trying to not create turmoil and hell in the country. So I understand. I can understand intellectually where he was coming from and how and why in that space. I also think that Merrick Garland is responsible for not listening, but seeing what the details and the facts were. He had opportunity. I'm not going to blame Joe Biden for not removing it, but we're putting it in something different. I am going to say Merrick Garland in that role saw the data, saw the information, and should have been able to pull himself up by his shorts and say, you know what, we got to go get this dude. He has committed. We have enough evidence. And then the other part of this, though, Big Art, is that everybody's got to understand and realize is that our justice system oftentimes bends itself into a pretzel to make it so that even the worst of perpetrators that happen to be ones that have a different
Caucasian,
different costume that they wear get to walk through. And this is the epitome of that. Donald Trump should be in jail.
And being a past president too,
without a doubt,
that takes precedent too. But
yeah,
I would have brought Garland to the White House, had a sit down with him. Look, I want you to remain independent, but this man is a threat to our national security.
Yeah.
Now, if you're not going to do the job,
then let me know.
I'll get somebody to replace you. Let me know that you don't want to do the job and prosecute this man to the fullest extent of the law. Because if you're not, he is a threat to our national security, to the world's security.
Yeah.
Now, you either do your job or I'm going to have to replace you. He could have offered his resignation right then.
I don't disagree with you, Big Art. Listen, man, thanks for the call this morning. Appreciate you as always, and have a great rest of the week, okay?
All right. You too, man. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. All right, Devin, let's see what Floyd in Skokie has to say this morning. Good morning, Floyd, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Richard. Thank you for Big Art this morning.
Yeah. What's going on, man?
Well, Richard, I want to tell you something. It's like, we refer to the Republican Party like the old Republican Party doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
The name should be changed to MAGA Party because that's who they are. I mean, it's like this man is getting all his juices from the rotten people that look up to him.
Yeah.
It's like, he feeds on it. He's a bottom feeder.
He is. He's done nothing but show examples of being just that. And it's that's why I said earlier, and I know that a number of you are already calling in on this one, that Donald Trump is a flat-out embarrassment to the country, to the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There's no.
It's like we can't raise our heads around the rest of the world. They're laughing at us.
And they literally are. I mean, there are places, if you've seen different clips and different things that have been posted all over social media, there are people all over the country, all over the world, that are literally kind of rolling up their tents and saying, you know what, until the United States gets their act together, we kind of aren't cool with the United States right now. And I don't blame them. I really don't. I mean, the political leaders have already made it clear that they're finding.
Would you share information with Donald Trump? Nobody's going to share information with this man because he'll blab it to everybody.
Yeah.
He can't help it.
And in the first term, I mean, that infamous picture of him and the two Russian leaders, I can't think of their names right now, that were in the White House.
Lavrov.
Right. Sergei Lavrov and Kalishnik, I think, whatever the dude's name. I don't want to get that wrong. But they were... we're not gullible enough to think that they did not get shared information, intelligence information, that was needed, that then they may very well have led to Russia furthering their efforts to invade Ukraine. That's a conversation that not enough people are talking about. And also some of the things that are happening in the Middle East. But see, part of the problem, again, I come back to this, as I said, our mainstream media is not doing the job that they need to do, or the one that they've led people to believe that they're actually doing. They're not doing that job. So as the Republican Party is not existent like they, quote, used to be, or what we thought was a Republican Party, the mainstream media is not about journalism and about reporting. It's about flashiness. It's about trying to get the gotcha question and this, that, and the other. So, Floyd,
if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah, that's true, unfortunately. Floyd, I hope you're doing well. Thank you for the call this morning. We always appreciate your contribution.
Take care, Richard.
You too, man. Be well. All right, Devin, let's see what George in Oak Park has to say. Good morning, George, and welcome to the show. Uh-oh, did we lose George? George,
had a good time.
Hey, George, start over. We missed you at the very beginning. Start again.
Yeah, Richard, good morning. I'm glad that you had a good time out there with your family.
Thank you.
And want to go Virginia. And, I keep listening to WCPT. The right wing, the constituency, they are in on it. What I heard, one caller to the show was talking about one of her girlfriends who moved out to the southeast and was dying of some cancer, and that dying woman's wish was she hoped that she could live long enough to observe Donald Trump's 79th birthday these past couple of days. Mm-hmm. Another man who attended the parade, he was talking to a reporter over there in Washington, D.C., and he was saying, yeah, I got all dressed up. I put on my best gear because, the president, he's always out there every day doing his best job. And the right-wing politicians, they really believe, and this is what, your audience, what we have to hammer into our minds here, that the right-wing leadership, they believe they can pull this off. That's the problem. They're in on it.
Yeah.
All the way. And so, Richard, that's the scenario.
Yeah, this is something that I've been saying, and many of you guys have been saying a similar thing, and that is the Republican Party, the GOP, the nationally elected officials, the House and the Senate, they're not doing the job that's for the country. They may be doing what their benefactors and their funders are telling them to do, but the job that needs to be done for the country that they swore an oath in the Constitution to when they were sworn in, just like someone who serves in the military does, those elected officials are not doing their job. On a state level, many of them in the Republican Party are not doing their job, which is to protect and preserve in their role the country or the state that they represent. And that's the GOP today. They don't give a darn about the country or the state per se. They care about making sure that they're making the people who help fund their election happy. Because if they did care about the other, then they would be standing up to Donald Trump. They'd find some steel in their spine, which they've apparently, they've lost if they ever had in the first place. So, George, go ahead.
It really is up to the left-wing constituency to do this, to fight back. Bottled blonde Pam Bondi, she knows now the type of person that Donald Trump is, and she's going to fall down like a domino, like the other attorneys and people who represented Trump have fallen down, because it's going to eventually catch up with her. But it really is an issue of us to really fight back.
Yeah, that's our responsibility at this point, is we have to continue to be in the fight. We have to say, as my father used to say, keep your dukes up. So we've got to be prepared, and not just be prepared, but go forward and fight. The protests were massive, and they represented us fighting in a peaceful way. I'm going to go as far as saying 95% plus of the protests in the country this past weekend were peaceful, and they sent a message. So we have to continue to do that. We have to call our representatives and make sure that they know that we're here and keep making some noise. George, thanks for the call this morning. I got to get to a quick break. Hope you're well.
Go Big Blue.
That's right. Thanks, man. Be well. All right, guys, we'll take a quick break. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views on the Credo mobile phone and text line. We'll be right back.
When it comes to banking, you need a bank you can trust. A bank with a rock-solid reputation and the highest integrity. A bank that gives you the attention and respect you deserve.
ABOC first opened its doors in downtown Chicago in 1922, and we've made our name on deep expertise, best-in-class service, and a strong commitment to our customers. We know the Chicago business market inside and out and can help you craft the perfect banking solution, no matter what type of business you're in.
And if you're looking for a banking partner for your labor union, we can bring the type of expertise that only comes from a bank that was founded by labor unions and still has union employees and shareholders to this day.
Whether you need a deposit account, loan, trust services, or investment management, ABOC has you covered. Let's work together to manage your finances today while planning for a better tomorrow. ABOC, a bank built on a strong foundation.
Visit aboc.com to learn more. Member FDIC.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey, Progressive, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Catch us on all the socials. So I do want to press a little bit of a pause and say this as respectfully as I can to the families who were directly and indirectly lost members of their family as a result of this guy Bolter and his reign of terror. You have our support as best we can give to you as a progressive station in a progressive city in a progressive state. Minnesota represents that. And if Donald Trump can't send any good support and love to your governor, I certainly will, to Governor Walz, for his leadership and his willingness to be there to support the families as best he possibly can, and also to Senator Amy Klobuchar, whose voice was heard very early in this tragedy. So we are sending you our best energies that we can, and all we can do to be here for you is to be here for you. I will say this, and this is being a little partisan in this moment of this tragedy. To all the Republicans that are trying to run around and be bipartisan, you all can go kick rocks. Where were you when we, Democrats, particularly in the last administration, was asking for Republicans, for MAGA, but particularly those who were supporters of this craziness, to dial down the rhetoric, to dial down the mainstream media has failed so massively in this space of trying to say both sides do it. I saw Kristen Welker, and I knew she was going to go down this path of trying to rope in the supposed assassination of Donald Trump, and the question that she asked about the senator from California that I'm not Padilla, the other senator. Help me out. Schiff, Adam Schiff. She asked a question that tried to rope in, it's both sides do it. Yeah, she did. I'm like, first of all, let's focus on the immediate assassinations that took place, Chris and Welker. Secondly, there's no Democrats running around amping up the heat in this space. But we've got Marjorie Taylor Greene, who then posts a picture of her being behind a .50 caliber rifle over the weekend. I mean, insensitivity coming from the right that's their brand. So mainstream media dropping the ball, Republicans who are, mainstream media who wants to sort of make this both sides do it, and Republicans who want to try to be partisan now, when we've been begging you to dial it back, dial it down for months, years, you all can go kick rocks because you know for a doggone fact that it's your side. I mean, I'm trying to understand, Devin, help me understand which Democratic guys were out there going to go kidnap a Republican governor. I'm trying to figure out who they were. Any guys that were out there that were going to go threaten a Republican member of the House of Representatives and bring a hammer to their house, i.e. Pelosi. Where's a Democrat that did that? So Republicans, and I know there's people going to come back and say that, they're going to go to this, they're going to try to find something. The point I'm making is the Democrats are not the ones that are amping up or have kept the flame burning when it comes to these awful acts of terror. So I'm going to leave that alone for a moment and just try to say this as a final comment in this moment. We want to send as much support and good energy to the families and to the folks in that community, and the support to the people who need it the most there, and not act like the knucklehead in the White House. Oh, mercy, mercy, mercy. I haven't even gotten to what's happening in Southern California, and what's happening in the Middle East, and I've got my thoughts about what's happening in both. But as we work our way to the top of this hour, there's a clip I want to play that is talking about how what's happening right now from Donald Trump, and it's going to be the Michael Cohen one. That what's happening right now that Trump is doing is really about theater. It's about how it's going to make him look better, but not the country necessarily look better. So let's go to this Michael Cohen clip.
You just wrote a piece, and I want to quote a bit from it. It's about what's happening, unfolding right now in Los Angeles. You say, "This isn't tough on crime. This is political theater, starring soldiers in camo and directed by a man who knows deep down that his grasp on power relies on suppressing yours." Why did you write this?
I wrote it at 4:30 this morning, by the way, which is prior to, of course, all of this crazy. But here's my take on it. Why is it that this is happening right now? What's the reason that Donald Trump put out these 2,000 National Guardsmen? It's not because he's concerned about signs. It's not concerning, remember what they had during Trump's rallies, mass deportation now, same sort of signs that we have here. It's to distract you and the rest of the media from what's going on with the fights with Elon Musk, where he was losing that fight, where 180 million people were following Elon Musk. This is just a sideshow.
This is reality TV.
Reality TV. He's the best at it.
I don't know. It seems like if it's just reality TV, it's hurting a lot of lives, and it's been doing so
which he doesn't care about, by the way. Which he doesn't care about. This doesn't mean anything to him. He actually wants to see people clashing with police, so in that way he can justify this action. But this is all distraction. And we know with Trump, there's two things that he's great at: distraction and deflection.
You also argue in this piece that he views protest criticism as treason. That's serious.
Yeah, it's treason to him. He doesn't care about anything other than you following his directives. And his directive is he needs to show the American people that when he said that he wants mass deportations, he needs his numbers. He wasn't getting the numbers. So what does he do? He creates a scenario like this. There was no reason to deploy the National Guard. Police could have handled it. They didn't need to show up in riot gear to Home Depot. All of this, again, it's theater.
Absolutely. Nothing other than that. And I think we all know that. We've all heard different people talk about it. Michael Cohen obviously was up close and personal with Donald Trump, which had to be a pretty disgusting place to be. But that being said, he, I think, is a reasonable, a voice in that space. And we all know that. We all understand that. And this is why it becomes even more incumbent upon us to stay awake, to use a derivative of woke, or part of the phrase of woke, is to stay plugged in, y'all. This is what I talk about every week, and if not on every show, is not get fooled by the distraction. Don't fall to the okie doke. Pay attention, y'all. It's critically important. This is a distraction. Because to Michael Cohen's point, and I made my own statements in this space last week, listen, Los Angeles Police Department and the greater Los Angeles County has enough law enforcement officers to navigate a section of the city. They've got enough folk to navigate this. So, and if they needed to bring in additional law enforcement, this is one of the things that I was reminded of this weekend. Los Angeles County has 83 cities in it. 83. There's a reason it's the largest county in America. So the law enforcement that's there in the specific area and the region is more than capable of navigating and handling this. In a pocket. You would have thought that the riots or the protests, I'm going to call them protests because that's what they are. The protests were as sweeping as the fires that took place in the Palisades. And it was not even close, not even in the conversation. But part of the problem, again, mainstream media has not done their job to make it clear that this is localized. Donald Trump is an embarrassment because, to Michael Cohen's point, he needs the theater. He knows his numbers stink. He knows on the economy he's rotten. He also knows that he's being embarrassed on the world stage right now when it comes to negotiating and talking about tariffs. And now that Israel has launched missiles into Iran, Trump's a sideliner. He's not going to do a doggone thing to make this right or make it better. But once again, this is where we have to stay plugged in. We can't, as tough as it is, we can look away for a moment, but we have to stay plugged in. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep making sure that we are contacting our elected officials. And before we go to this break, I'll remind you one more time. Call your senators, call your governors, lieutenant governors, call your AGs regarding this bill. And most definitely call the Capitol switchboard, 202-224-3121. Let's take a quick break, guys. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. When we come back in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll be talking with Dr. Lauren Smith, who will be bringing us some information on matters important this month of Pride. We'll be right back.
Whoa. More fiber?
What?
Down here, buddy. It's me, your spoon. Constipation with belly pain still coming back?
Yeah.
Talk to your doctor. It could be irritable bowel syndrome with constipation, or IBS-C, but Linzess could help you get ahead of it.
Linzess linaclotide is a prescription medicine that treats IBS-C in adults. It's not a laxative. It's a once-daily pill that helps you get ahead of your symptoms. It's proven to help you have more frequent and complete bowel movements and helps relieve overall abdominal symptoms, belly pain, discomfort, and bloating. These symptoms were studied in combination, not individually. Do not give Linzess to children less than 2. It may harm them. Do not take Linzess if you have a bowel blockage. Get immediate help if you develop unusual or severe stomach pain, especially with bloody or black stools. The most common side effect is diarrhea, sometimes severe. If it's severe, stop taking Linzess and call your doctor right away. Other side effects include gas, stomach area pain, and swelling. Talk to your doctor and say yes to Linzess. Learn more at linzess.com or call 1-800-LINZESS.
AP News, I'm Haya Poujwani. Israel claims it's achieved aerial superiority over Tehran and has control of skies from western Iran to the capital. That's while Iran renews missile attacks on Israel. AP correspondent Charles de Ledesma reports.
Iran's launched a new wave of missile attacks on Israel, triggering air raid sirens across the country as emergency services report at least 5 people have been killed and dozens more wounded in the 4th day of open warfare between the regional foes. Tehran had announced it had launched some 100 missiles and vowed further retaliation for Israel's surprise attack on its nuclear program and military leadership, which has killed at least 220 people in the country since it began on Friday. The nation announced the latest salvo after a weekend of escalating tit-for-tat attacks. Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard vowed that further rounds of strikes would be more forceful and severe. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
Gaza's health ministry says 38 Palestinians have been killed in new shootings in areas of food distribution centers in the south of the territory. Speaking to reporters Sunday before departing for the G7 summit, President Donald Trump spoke about the protests across the country against his administration over the weekend.
So the protesters, if we didn't have the National Guard on call and ready, they would rip Los Angeles apart. They come and they check and they say, is the National Guard going to be there? And if the National Guard's being there, they don't even show up.
At a news conference Sunday night, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz says the man who killed 2 state lawmakers crawled to officers in surrender after authorities located him in the woods near his home.
Multiple agencies were there as FBI laid hands on it and Minnesota State Patrol put the handcuffs on.
Audio courtesy of the Minnesota Department of Public Safety. Vance Bolter was arrested and charged with 2 counts of murder and 2 of attempted murder. This is AP News. The French president visited Greenland yesterday to show European support for the island coveted by President Trump. AP correspondent Julie Walker.
French President Emmanuel Macron in Greenland on his way to the G7 in Canada. The European leader reiterating his criticism of President Trump's intention to take control of the strategic Arctic island by force if necessary, speaking mainly in French, saying, I don't think that's something allies do, and in English, restating support.
Convey a message of friendship and solidarity from France and the European Union to help this territory to face the different challenges.
Macron met with Greenland's leader as well as the Danish Prime Minister, since Greenland is an autonomous territory within Denmark. Macron later attends the G7 with Trump. I'm Julie Walker.
I'm Haya Panjwani, AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. We'll see mostly sunny skies here for today with a high in the mid-80s. Winds out of the southeast around 5 to 15 miles per hour. Then for tonight, partly cloudy, a low near 68. By Tuesday, a chance for showers and storms here late. Blend of clouds and sunshine develops, high around 90 degrees. Wednesday, chance for rain and storms, a high of 82. By Thursday, sunny, high of 83 degrees. That's your latest Chicago weather update.
Currently, it's 66.
Porsche, the name alone exudes class, sends shivers down the spine. Now imagine yourself behind the wheel. Find your new Porsche at the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park. Browse and test drive our extensive selection, like the 2025 Porsche Cayenne. And right now, lease the 2025 Macan Electric for only $1049 a month for 39 months. Visit the Porsche Exchange in Highland Park or PorscheExchange.com. $8,992.7. Excludes tax, title, license, and act. No security deposit required. Expires 6/30/25.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that focuses on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Hey, progressives, welcome back to the show. 773-763-9270 is our Credo mobile phone and text line. Today, live, local and progressive, on live, local and progressive. Joan Esposito's guests are media critic Mark Jacob and Jennifer Schulze. Both of them will be with Joan. Ray Long, of the Chicago Tribune on the sentencing of Michael Madigan, and Tom Seraphin, public affairs consultant specializing in politics and media. Live, local, and progressive, weekdays 2 to 5 Central Time here on WCPT, Chicago's progressive talk for 20 years. Tonight, driving it home, Patty Vasquez will be joined by guest host Ken Mejia Beal, and their guests are Illinois State Representative Diane Blair Sherlock, Joe Farrar of Renewed Hope Methodist Church, to promote their Building Allies event for bystander intervention training to support LGBTQIA on Saturday, June 21st, and Kelsey Alto, Director of Programming for the Twin Cities Pride Festival, which takes place June 27th to 29th. That's Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez, weekdays 5 to 7 p.m. here on WCPT, Heartland Signal website, TuneIn, YouTube, and Facebook. Tomorrow on my show, I'll be talking with Wisconsin State Senator Kelda Royce and Jamal Cole, founder and CEO of My Block, My Hood, My City. And Jamal is just a phenomenal guy that's doing so many great things here in Chicago, and the word's spreading all over the country. So looking forward to having them with us tomorrow. Okay, so this is Pride Month, and you know what's interesting with me in Pride Month? It's becoming more and more like Black History Month in the sense that we need to have it, and we need to have the recognition. But Pride is every day of the week, every week of the month, every month of the year, as is Black History, and in many ways they meld together. It's part of American history. How to that point, though, we need to spend time talking about issues that are specific and findings and research that talks about things that are taking place in the quote-unquote LGBTQ community. And with us this morning is kind of an expert in that area. That would be none other than Dr. Lauren Smith, who is one of the wonderful representatives and leaders with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Good morning, Ms. Smith, and welcome to Choose Views.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Can you hear me okay? Does it sound good on your end?
It sounds great.
All right, fantastic. Well, we'll dive right in. I'm so glad and honored to have you with us this morning to talk a little bit broadly about Pride, talk a little bit about some of the most recent reporting on health and well-being that you guys were part of putting together. But if you could take a moment and share with us a little bit about who Dr. Lauren Smith is, and a little bit about your background, and a little bit about the work that you're currently engaged in.
Certainly. Well, good morning, and I am happy to be here. I am a pediatrician by training. I also have been a public health official for the state of Massachusetts. And so my career over the past 30 years has really been working with children, families, and communities to help them all be healthier.
And that's one of the things that a lot of people, we just sometimes take for granted. I would say that that health is going to be a natural thing. But I think the more we focus on and lean into it, the more that we're able to produce exactly what you talked about. One of the recent reports that I did want to kind of dive into is the findings from the 2022 U.S. Trans Survey. And to what extent you were a part of that, and the wonderful people that you've been working with in that space. I do want to take a little bit of time and talk a little bit more about that, as we are most certainly in Pride Month, but also just at large, why this is such an incredibly important report when it comes to discussing the health of the members of our LGBTQ plus community.
Well, I'm so glad that you're taking the time to focus on it, because I think, as you indicated, and as your listeners will know, that everyone, including trans people, should have the opportunity to live a happy and healthy life and to be treated with dignity and respect. In the survey that you mentioned is the largest survey of trans people by trans people, and it's really designed to give voice to trans individuals and to highlight the issues most important to them that they are experiencing.
One of the things that I have learned and still learning is that the conversation about health in general is oftentimes, I mean, we human beings sometimes want to pretend like something's not wrong. If we feel a little bit sore or stiff, or we got a sniffle, or we got this, that, or the other, we sometimes put it off, and then we go a while without addressing something that's going on. And that's for folks who don't have to talk about their sexuality necessarily, i.e. folks that are straight. But I would gather that it probably is even more of an intense conversation, and I don't know if your report bears this out, for someone that's a member of the LGBTQ plus community that has a concern medically. Where do they go about, dealing with that? I mean, that not meant to sound like a completely insane, stupid question, but I would gather that you found some things that highlight that in the report. Is that true?
Absolutely. And I think you alluded to two themes that came up in the survey results that are really important. One is that how important it is to have access to both routine health care, but also mental health care, behavioral health care, and, of course, health care related to transition. And in the survey, more than 3/4 of the folks who answered said that they had visited a healthcare provider in the past year, which is great, suggesting that, a significant portion of people have access to healthcare, but it's, not 100%. And I would also say that the trust in healthcare providers is higher now than it was when they did the survey back in 2015. Fewer respondents now say that they had to teach their doctor or other healthcare provider about trans people and their experiences so that they could get appropriate care. And that evolution is really important because, as I said, everyone wants to be treated with respect and dignity, and you want your healthcare providers to have a good understanding of what your experience is. And I think that probably the other thing that's really, really important is that those folks who had supportive families reported far better health than those who did not.
And I would wonder if that's across the board in terms of their full spectrum of health, or is mental health, and this is kind of a two-part thought, a higher ranking part of this overall conversation about health. Is the general health, and then I would say the mental health that all of us have to rally and wrestle with. But I know it's got to be one of those bigger challenges for those of our brothers and sisters in the LGBTQ plus community.
Yes, you really put your finger on it. I mean, the respondents to this survey, although I was just sharing that they had been able to see providers, did report worse overall health and mental health than Americans overall. And sadly, and it's heartbreaking to know that 64% of the folks who responded had considered suicide at some point in their life, and 47% had attempted it. And that is just dramatically higher than for the rest of the U.S. population. 5 times higher in terms of who had considered suicide, and 20 times higher for those who had actually attempted to end their life. So when I was talking about, people feeling supported, the support of family, loved ones in the society, and broadly, it can be life-saving. It's not just a nice to have. It's can save people's lives.
It's a necessity, and there's no question in any of our minds that are paying attention that it's a necessity. We are fortunate this morning to be talking with our Dr. Lauren Smith, who's one of the representatives and leaders at the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Dr. Smith, let me ask you the question that I think probably passes through everyone's mind. What is it? What would be, in your experience, one of the number one things that can be done for someone in a family when there is a member that, and the phrase of coming out is one that is, we're still using that phrase rather than folks just living their lives. But what is what would you say is the number one or the best useful tool for someone who does have a thought that there's a member of their family that may be at that tipping point of, quote, coming out?
Well, I think as with any relationship, the most important part is the listening. You know, my grandmother used to say you have 2 ears and 1 mouth, and you should use them in that proportion. And that's the case here. I mean, people, can remember that inclusion and acceptance are essential for all people to thrive, and especially and including trans people. We all want our humanity to be acknowledged and recognized. So, as I said, having the support of loved ones can be life-saving, and that support can just be listening, having the opportunity to hear what their experiences are, and to give people the space to share. And you don't even have to say very much, really. You don't have to know the right things to say. I think just being there, being open to listening can be incredibly, incredibly helpful.
Yeah, and that's why I was very careful in using the words coming out, because whether that be someone that's coming out as gay or lesbian or trans, and everything that's part of this wonderful community, I think so many times it's forgotten. And I not to make this a conversation about, religion, but it's forgotten sometimes that we are all God's children. If we all believe in that, then it shouldn't be in a situation where someone has to come out. It should just be the person gets to live their life, and we're supportive of that, just as we would be for any of our children and family and partners who don't have to, quote, come out. So it's that's that basic piece about we all want dignity and respect, and the ability to live our lives. So that you're exactly right. I completely agree. So let's talk about, and maybe I'll phrase this as the elephant in the room when it comes to our care systems and our care providers and our medical professionals like yourself. The letters and the words diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI are having an incredibly negative impact on how we process through medical care and folks that are in our medical systems. So for you as a doctor and a provider, but also a scientist and a chief in the health community, how are you navigating and how are you helping people that you are involved with navigate through this crazy time from the federal government as it relates to healthcare?
Well, I think the first thing I would start by saying is those letters have been kind of weaponized. But if you step back and you ask, yourself the question, do we feel like all members of our community and our families, do we want all of our community to feel welcome and to have a place where they can be themselves? Our kids with disabilities of different kinds, folks with different backgrounds. Most people would say yes. They talk about, do we think that people with different backgrounds and perspectives and experiences, have important insights to share that can, really help all of us move ahead? That's what diversity is. And so, people are like, we want ideas from people with, different backgrounds because we get better solutions that way. So I think, if we move away from, or if we acknowledge that the words have just been twisted, if we go to the underlying concepts of what they mean, I think they're fundamentally American and fundamentally, a key part of our society. So, I've been trying to, and we've been trying to really focus on that and why those concepts of having people feel welcomed, having a broad representation of folks with different backgrounds and experiences is really important for all of us. So that's what we've been focusing on.
Last fall, you were part of an insight that I found really interesting, and hope that you could shed a little bit more light on it. And it's entitled, "What if our systems actually served all of us?" Maybe you could shed a little bit more light on the origin and the creation of that, and kind of what your thinking was as it relates to our health systems.
Well, that came out of my experience as a pediatrician at Boston Medical Center, which is an urban safety net hospital where I worked for 10 years. And I had the privilege, really, and the honor of taking care of children and their families in that setting. And it just, you couldn't practice there, really, without confronting the idea that our systems weren't working for folks. And this could be whether or not they were able to have time off to be with their child who's in the hospital, or whether or not they were able to get the services that their children needed. And so that's really what, that stuck with me. Those experiences have stuck with me because, every parent across this country wants the best for their child, period. And there are a lot of situations where the systems and the structures just are really big barriers to that. And I think we all know that, but I think that we can do more to think about what does it look like to take down those barriers.
Do you think we're making progress? Or if so, what kind of how do you think we are making progress? Because this is not just a local issue. I mean, we're here in Chicago. You're out. It's all over our country. And how, if anything, or what, if anything, do you see as progress in terms of all of our systems actually working?
Well, I think that overall we are making progress, yes, because people are calling attention to it. And I think most people understand that, hey, you shouldn't have to fight so hard uphill, to get what you need for your families, and that our communities should have the building blocks of health and well-being so that people can access them. And I think that the current situation we're in, where, as an example, the government is looking to essentially put more blocks in place by, cutting Medicaid services for, millions of people who are working, who are really, trying to make a difference for their families. And this will those sorts of steps will move us in a backwards direction.
Are you seeing, let me ask a different or better question. Where in the country, and you can do this maybe regionally or even states or cities, where are you seeing that we are making progress, even in the this crazy time that's coming out of the current administration in Washington? Where are you seeing that there is some strength and there are some groups and organizations that are really propping up health and well-being for us in general, but certainly specifically for our LGBTQ plus communities?
Well, the good news is there are those beacons of light really across the country. And so, as an example, there are coalitions of groups in Massachusetts, in Minnesota, in California, and in places all across the country where folks recognize that our trajectories are linked, so that you will have cross-movement support. So it's not only the LGBTQ communities that are coming out for Pride, but communities of who support immigrants, communities who support other populations, and communities who've been marginalized and excluded because of the recognition that you said at the top of the introduction, that our futures are intertwined. We are in this spinning planet together, and we have to look out for each other. So I really see beacons that kind of across, as people are making it known that they support each other, but more importantly, that they see what's happening with the current administration and do not want to go backwards, want to go forward.
Those are great words, Dr. Smith, and I really appreciate you being with us as a leader and a voice in this space. I'm gonna ask you now to put it on your calendar to be back with us again, because I know our listeners all over the country appreciate the hard work that someone like you does, the leadership, the staff. You've got a great group and with trustees and all that are part of the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. So I appreciate you being with us this morning, and we'll ask for. I will invite you back now in the future to talk again.
Will you?
Oh, heck yeah!
I'm going to hold you to that.
Well, then I'll
hold you to it.
Then I guess I got to be ready, because this is one of the things that I'm so thankful for in terms of my show and our station and what we're doing in our movement, is that it's designed to make sure that we outreach to everybody, because all things local are all things national, whether it be our budgets, whether it be our health care, and certainly, as you said, taking care of and looking out for each other. So I'm definitely going to have you back. Now that you've said yes in advance, then we'll make sure that happens. So I'm thrilled that you were able to be with us.
Absolutely.
Take a moment as we wrap up and just share with our listeners how they can find you, how they can get plugged into the foundation, and if they wanted to. I'm a big believer, get involved with something. Don't sit in a silo and not do anything. Get involved. And this is just another opportunity for those folks who do care to be involved. So let folks know how they can find you and how they can get involved with the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation.
Well, certainly, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure to talk with you and to be able to have this, I think, very timely and sensitive conversation. The Robert Wood Johnson Foundation you can find at www.rwjf.org. So people can look there and see what we're about, see why we're really being forceful in our statements that equity is important and that everyone deserves the right to be healthy, and that should be the right, not a privilege of some. So go check it out, see what we're talking about, and make sure that you connect with others in your community, whether they be faith-based community or other community groups. They're all over, and they're active and vibrant, and we spend a lot of time trying to support those, because we know that's where change happens.
Absolutely. Dr. Lawrence Smith, Vice President of Strategic Portfolios at the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Thank you for being with us this morning. We really appreciate you taking the time, and get ready, because we're going to invite you back in the near future, okay?
Awesome. I would love it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being with us, and have a great week. Bye now.
Okay, you too. Take care.
Bye-bye. How about that, guys, for a refreshing voice in a sensitive area? Obviously, healthcare in general, but specifically our LGBTQ brothers and sisters. And great to have Dr. Smith with us, and looking forward to having her with us again, and other folks from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. Let's take a quick break, Devin. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views. We'll be right back.
This is WCPT telling you how you can shop blue. Let's see if we can shop blue and slay by looking at clothing brands that support the Democratic Party. Nike. Now, yes, Nike's co-founder is very Republican. However, the other 83% of the company supports the Democratic Party. $894,000 in 2024. Dior. Now, Dior does not give to politics, but some of their employees do, and 84% of their donations went to Democrats in 2024. Adidas. Adidas also does not give to politics, but a lot of their employees do, as 97% of their employees' donations went to Democrats. Gucci. Gucci also does not donate to politics, but their employees do, and 84% of their employees' donations went to the Democratic Party. Chanel. Chanel also does not give to politics, but guess what? 99% of their employees donated to Democrats in 2024. I would hate to be that guy in the 1%. This has been WCPT telling you how you can shop blue.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, Progressive, welcome back to the show. Choose Views, 773-763-9278. So great to have Dr. Lawrence Smith with us from the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation. As we bring on our next guest, I have a clip that I want to play from the Seattle police chief on how he sees what's happening in terms of what's going on in Los Angeles and may happen in other communities. Let's go to that clip, Devin.
Anyone in Seattle, from anyone who comes to this city with the intention to hurt them or inhibit their First Amendment rights. And what that means is, at some point, I will probably go to jail and be in prison, because we have an administration that has threatened to jail politicians, and indeed has done so in Milwaukee, if you remember that, and has threatened to jail a governor. I'm just a simple public servant. That's all I am. That's all I am. I'm just a simple public servant, but I'm going to do the right thing for the people in Seattle.
Yeah, he definitely does. That's the Seattle police chief talking about he's going to do the right thing about the people in his community, and that may mean going to jail in that process and standing up for the people that he believes in. With us this morning is our good friend Mike Nellis, political strategist, and dude that's just got a lot to say about a lot of things. Good morning, Mike, and welcome to the show. Mike, are you there? Can you hear me? Ruh-roh. No, we'll keep going. That's something that had an error. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll get Mike on in a second. Something happens, technology, live radio. That's what happens. So the Seattle mayor just spoke the truth about what has to happen, or what he believes he's going to do. And that's to make sure that the people in his community are properly represented and that they don't get mistreated, and that their ability to speak publicly, their right to speak is not going to be inhibited, i.e. protest. And I haven't really, jumped into the deep end of the pool on protest this weekend, but I will say that that's our right, that's our reality, that's our responsibility, and I feel that that's where we all have to be willing to step up our game. Mike, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, good morning, guys. We with us this morning is Mike Nellis, political strategist, and as I said, a guy who's got a lot to say about a lot of things. So welcome to the show this morning.
Thanks for having me. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. Did you happen to hear the clip that I played from the Seattle police?
I did.
Yeah,
I heard everything. I was talking to you. I don't know what was happening there.
Technology, real time.
There you go.
So this weekend, I mean, if we rewind back to last Thursday, it's just been a cluster of craziness that's going on, and I like something that you pointed out and that you posted on social media that says MAGA world is in denial, that the protest activity against Trump is dramatically higher than the last time. And when you say last time, you were referring to his first administration, correct? His first term.
Yeah. I think there's this perception that the resistance or the opposition, however you want to describe it, is smaller than it was 8 years ago or 10 years ago, however long it was when Trump was president the first time. And it's actually not true. The difference is that the first time Trump was president, there was an explosion of protest movements. There was the Women's March, which was massive. There was the protests against the Muslim ban. I think that was week 2 of Trump's first administration. And what we've seen here instead is there's been a small trickle that's now exploded into a tidal wave of enthusiasm. And the No Kings protest this weekend, which had over 5 million people, I believe, all throughout the country, that's the largest protest movement in the history of the United States. Now, it's not being covered that way. And then MAGA world is in complete and total denial about it because Trump has had, in my opinion, the 2.5 worst weeks of his presidency, which we can rewind and cover every insane thing that has happened in that, from Elon Musk turning on the president to Israel attacking Iran to the bizarre military parade this weekend. And Trump's approval rating is tanking commensurate with that. And so MAGA world's all over social media right now in this weird coordinated attack of the No Kings protest was useless. There was nobody there. Nobody showed up. And it's like, it's pathetic. Like, I would laugh, but it's just so pathetic to watch them try to spin this weekend into a win, and they can't do it.
Not at all. And I appreciate what you were saying about that on social media. But more importantly, the parade was a complete flop. There's no question about that. I mean, you look in the stands and you see, there's nobody in the stands. There's more security, up and down the avenue than there are actual people that are in the stands watching this or following this. And, at some point, the mainstream media realized that they had one option, or they had two options, and they chose to go with the one they normally go to, which is to make it about how great Donald Trump is, and using these words that they use to make it sound like they can, they're going to continue to prop him up. Meanwhile, the evidence is right in front of us that this was a flop. And to your point, you so well put, they're in such denial that, meaning MAGA, that they can't even believe what their own eyes are showing them when the mainstream media is showing it to them. And that is it's not surprising to folks like you and me and others who are plugged into this madness, but it does reiterate the fact that they are just they're lost in their own forest that they created.
The military parade is such a perfect example of this problem, because I had an ethical concern about it, right, which is that I didn't think that we should be dragging out tanks into the middle of the streets of D.C., and I thought it was a waste of taxpayer dollars when the president of the United States is telling us that we have to have Elon Musk cut money for cancer research for kids, and we've got to cut Medicaid to pay for tax cuts on the rich. So I had that objection to it. But beyond that, if I just set aside my own personal politics for a second, I sort of assumed the parade would be impressive in a frightening way, that it would be that Donald Trump would put on this production that was about showing off the American military that was going to look very authoritarian. And it had the same production quality as like a small town parade that was slapped together 48 hours ago. And so to me, it was embarrassing, and it was offensive to our military. Like, our Army won World War I and World War II, and it was poorly produced and poorly attended, which may have been about the rain. There's also a story going around about a TikTok campaign where TikTok influencers were telling people to reserve tickets so that people couldn't go, which I describe as a million little acts of resistance, which I sort of love. Same thing happened with Trump's inauguration a couple of years ago, and I love little psyop campaigns like that people just put together. But ultimately, it was so embarrassing, and every image that you see coming out of this parade is like embarrassing. Like, it's squeaky World War II tanks just like going down the street like really slow to like the worst possible music. We have soldiers that like they're not even like marching. Like, if you look at the images of some of these soldiers that were dragged out for this parade, they're just like casually walking, and they're not marching. Like, if they marched like that at Annapolis, if they were in the Naval Academy, like they get booted out. So like, and I'm not a military guy, but like I've been around enough military people to know what that kind of discipline looks like. So you can tell that their hearts were not in it, and it was just embarrassing. Yeah. I don't understand it. I just don't. He's an entertainer. I thought it would be entertaining at minimum.
Well, if that were supposed to be the purpose in his mind, who knows what was going on in those caverns of darkness. But I will say this. I mean, share this thought with you, and maybe you've talked with some people in your world that had a similar observation. Historically, and my sister this weekend reminded me of this. She said, historically, one of our best tools as a country and as our military is our might does not have to be shown on Front Street. And it doesn't have to be put out there to show how strong we are. It's shown by our delivery of what we do. And that's what I decided to do a little bit of like, let's check and see what, active duty folks are saying. And there are many men and women that are active duty. Some troops don't understand why they're being, one, deployed against protesters in terms of Los Angeles, but why there would be a need for a parade in the first place when our military, just mentioning the U.S. military in and of itself is an act of strength, and it's an act of power. To just have to display it, actually, to your point, it showed, it looked kind of weak for a military that's supposed to be the biggest, baddest, on the planet. It looked kind of weak. And I'm not saying that against our military, because our military is not. But the presentation of it, the quote, the theater of it that Michael Cohen talked about, that didn't exist. The show, the pomp and circumstance, that wasn't there. And I'm not going to let the weather be a reason for it. It just wasn't there. It wasn't in the hearts and souls of these men and women.
No, it could have been a bright, shiny day, and I think it still would have been an embarrassing moment for this country. And here, look, I don't believe our military is weak. I believe that we have and we should continue to maintain the most lethal fighting force in the history of the world. I'm a very pro-military Democrat. And by the way, the Democratic Party is pro-military far more than the Republican Party. I want to be clear about that.
Can you say that again, Mike? Wait. Don't blow past it. I know the rapaciousness of your statement. Say that one more time for the folks in the cheap seats. Also known as MAGA.
The Democratic Party is the pro-military party, not the Republican Party. And I'll expand on it for you, since you liked it so much, Richard. What the Republican Party does is they wrap themselves in the flag and they hide behind active military members to justify the things that they do. And if they wanted, all this weekend on social media, all these MAGA influencers were tweeting at me that I was being disrespectful to the troops because I didn't like the parade and I was talking out about it. But here's the deal. If they wanted to honor the 250th birthday of the American military, then they should probably make sure that no member of the American military who served is going to be on food stamps.
Yep.
Make sure that nobody goes homeless after serving in the military. And they're not doing anything about that. Instead, they're actively cutting the programs that support those people. And that's what bothers me. This is not real patriotism. This is just politicians trying to score cheap political points, and they're not even good at it. If they were good at it, if they put together a good parade, this would be a different conversation, but they didn't. And I want to add one more thing that really rubbed me the wrong way about the parade this weekend.
Yeah.
And it was that we had this tragic, really frightening series of shootings in Minnesota, where 2 state legislators were shot. One is killed. The other one, I think, is still in critical condition. And they only caught the guy early this morning. So this has been an ongoing 48-hour thing. That was Donald Trump's first public appearance to the nation after a very scary, politically violent act that sent a lot of people into not panic, but into fear.
It was an act of terror.
And he didn't say it was an act of terrorism. That's exactly what it is. Thank you. He didn't say anything about it. He had his team put out a press release, which he didn't write because there isn't a single capital, fully caps word in it. And he couldn't be bothered in the address that he made to the nation, to which nobody watched, frankly, but he couldn't be bothered to say anything about it, to express his condolences, to be a normal person. And the President of the United States, one of your jobs, one of the most important jobs, is to calm the nation in times of heightened tension, and he can't even say anything about it. And that is also embarrassing and offensive to the troops, who's, by the way, the troops' job, our military members, their job is to keep us safe. From enemies, mostly foreign. That's what I would prefer instead of domestic, where they're going to deploy them in Los Angeles, which is ridiculous. And that just tells you there's so much going on right now, but they're all tied to the weakness and the puffery of this president.
Mike, listen to your point about I said earlier when I read the quote. Well, it's a terrible thing. I think he's a terrible. This is a question that was asked by ABC whether he plans to call Governor Walz regarding the following the shooting. And Trump's response was, well, it's a terrible thing. I think he's a terrible governor. I think he's a grossly incompetent person. But I may call him. I may call other people too. What the heck? He's an embarrassment. There's so many other words that I won't use. I can't use on the air. And I know you and I, if we were sitting having a cigar and a glass of wine or a bottle of beer or a bottle of sparkling water, we'd be lighting it up right now. So we can't do that this morning. But to that end, and to your point, that just the manhunt alone, the resources that were used, and thank God nobody else was killed or injured, but the resources that were used were local law enforcement primarily, and they got the job done. And I'm using this as a compare and contrast, and you can probably see where I'm going. By comparison and contrasting to Los Angeles and the protesters that were there and the folks who were, speaking their minds, Los Angeles didn't need to have even the National Guard called out. They could have called in the county police and navigated the situation. When you have a guy that's being manhunted and they found him with local, primarily law enforcement, that's a shout out to local law enforcement, but it's also showing how incapable and incompetent and unfit Donald Trump is by then using L.A. as the compare and contrast. It's embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
Let's talk first about the quote this weekend where he was asked who was going to call Tim Walz, which is, once again, like, Donald Trump is a classless individual of low moral character. I firmly believe in that he just has no character. And any good leader, even if they hate Tim Walz, would have been able to at least express some condolences and just been normal.
For the family,
like,
for the folks that died.
Right, for the folks that died, or at least on behalf of the American people that want to hear their president just be a normal human being for once. And, like, that was part of the appeal of Joe Biden 4 years ago when he won. It was just, I just want a normal president that could, like, talk to me when things are bad and, like, make me feel okay about it. Like, and that was very on display during the pandemic when Donald Trump just couldn't act normal. And it drives me crazy. Now, onto Los Angeles for a second, where they've deployed Marines, which is ridiculous, and where they federalized the National Guard. This is a situation where the land area that is impacted, and this is from a few days ago, so it may not be the case anymore. I actually think it's calmed down a lot more, is my understanding. But it was 0.2% of all of Los Angeles has any activity that has some problems to it, where there are people not being peaceful, and 99.9% of all of the people who have gone out to protest have been peaceful. Mm-hmm. This is a situation that is small, certainly relative to, like, the Rodney King riots from the 90s, certainly considered to what happened in Minneapolis a few years ago with the George Floyd protests, where Tim Walz called in the National Guard and worked with Donald Trump to contain that situation, which is how it's supposed to happen. And Donald Trump was so thirsty to escalate the violence and escalate the situation after they sent in ICE agents who, by the way, are just picking people up randomly at a Home Depot in Michigan last week. They grabbed a kid on his way to a field trip who was 17 years old and who had been ordered to be deported and was in the process of doing everything he needed to do to leave, but was waiting to finish high school, because he was like a few days away from finishing high school so that he could at least get his degree, which is reasonable. And so there's, like, the lack of empathy and a lack of just common sense in how this is constructed. Humanity, yeah. It's basic decency. And, like, people voted for stronger borders to keep us safe, to get rid of violent criminals. They didn't vote for the rest of this. And I understand that there are times when Donald Trump talked about all of this, but most people don't engage in politics at the level that you and I do. And people are pretty frustrated. And the reason Trump was so desperate to jump into L.A. here is because he's had the worst 2 weeks of his presidential term. Yep. This has been really rough for him. That Elon Musk stuff was really bad, but it also covered up the fact that a lot of economic numbers and indicators were very poor a week and a half ago, from the job numbers to unemployment. The stock market is stagnated.
And to what businesses have been saying quietly for some and loudly for others about how the tariffs are impacting the shells of their businesses, and how that supply chain now is catching up, irrespective of the pause of the tariffs. That initial, bless you, Devin, that initial push on the tariffs is catching up to the supply chain, and now businesses are starting to speak out about it. And that, if you recall, Mike, and I know you do. By the way, folks, because Mike and I just get going, I'm speaking with our good friend Mike Nellis, political strategist, and dude that's just got a lot to say about a lot of things. That's my new label for you, is a dude that's got a lot to say about a lot of things. Mike,
it's going to be the title of my autobiography.
Hey, I'll do the foreword for you.
We'll call it a lot of opinions, some of them worth hearing.
There you go. Look, man, I mean, the business community started to speak up about 3 weeks ago, right before Memorial Day. They really started to come out and say, you know what? And I'm paraphrasing, this is some garbage. And that's then the Musk thing hits, and we keep going down this path. And I don't know if you heard the clip I played earlier of Michael Cohen talking about Trump needed theater and distraction. Distraction and deflection is what he needs now, because, to your point, his numbers are so bad, and that, and this is where, unfortunately, the mainstream media isn't doing the job that they should be doing, which is talking about that. They'd rather be talking about, how Donald Trump is going to, navigate his way around Washington. So it's obvious, but I'm glad you pointed out the comparison about the situation in Los Angeles and the numbers in terms of people who were protesting that might be stepping across the line, but predominantly they're people who have said, we're going to be out here and we're going to say what we have to say. And how about that 5 million?
Yeah.
How about those 5 million plus Americans that said, we aren't agreeing on everything. We have different ways of getting this thing done, but doggone it, we're going to show up this weekend. Aren't you proud of the folks, proud of us collectively, Mike, for being able to do that?
I am proud of that, and let's point out that after all the puffery from the Republicans about how violent the protests were going to be, there were like hardly, if not any, incidents for it. And the stuff that's happening in L.A. is a handful of idiots. I can't use the word that I want on air, or I'm gonna get in trouble again for cursing. Because I have my favorite term for these people. But like, they should be. And Gavin Newsom actually posted like a photo of one of the guys they caught that like blew up, I think, the Waymo cars. And it was just some like white dude. It was just some like moron white dude. It's like an American citizen and just saw an opportunity to cause chaos. But they caught him, and they pointed out something I think is really important. That guy should be fully prosecuted with due process, sent through the system, and punished to the fullest extent of the law, just like the people at the January 6th insurrection should have been, and they would have been if Donald Trump hadn't pardoned them. And Donald Trump didn't just pardon the people who, hey, may have gotten caught up in something that they shouldn't have been, which I can sort of understand that argument, even if I probably wouldn't have gone down that route myself. But he also pardoned people who beat cops at the Capitol. And he also pardoned a guy who was caught with child pornography in his car that day, which is insane to me that he pardoned that guy. And so the Republican Party doesn't get to lecture anybody about keeping us safe, doesn't get to lecture anybody about the rule of law when they're pardoning cop beaters and child pornographers. So it's just, it drives me nuts. Meanwhile, 5 million Americans came out to say that we're not going to have a king, that we're not going to let this happen, and it's the largest protest in the history of the United States. The media is not going to cover it that way because they've got too many other more salacious things to cover for the casual viewer. Fine. But there is something happening in this country, and people are fired up. And on top of that, Democrats keep knocking out these special elections.
Come on, man. Come on, man. Preach about that, Mike. I mean, you posted the fact that, you know, and you guys have to follow Mike Nellis. Some of the stuff he posts on social media, I can't read some of the words that are at the end of some of his sentences, but boy, do they make the point. And yeah, I mean, recently, not just recently, over a number of weeks, we've been, you know, clicking off these wins in areas that we're not supposed to, whether it be the Omaha mayor or whether it be the guy, the young cat that won down in South Carolina in Lindsey Graham's backyard. I mean, talk to that for a minute as we come to the end of our very, very crazy segment about that they are picking off some of these very unpredictable races.
Well, I'm like a broken record on the Omaha mayor's race because I grew up in Omaha. But, you know, the longest-serving mayor in the country was this woman named Jean Stothert. And I worked on her very first race. It was one of the first races I ever worked on a million years ago when I was young. And she was considered unbeatable, that it wasn't even worth running against her, that no Democrat worth their way would waste any time trying to beat her because she was so well-liked, and they beat her by double digits. Double digits.
Yeah.
And that is a direct reflection. Yeah, you had John on? I love John.
Yeah.
I've known John since I was 18 years old. And I love the guy. And they ran John Ewing, who was a former cop. He was the Douglas County treasurer. Like, he was best known for like completely revitalizing the DMV in Douglas County, Nebraska, and making it incredibly efficient. And Jean Stothert went full Trump against him, like was sending out these crazy mail pieces about John Ewing wanting to like turn your kids trans and like stuff like that. And John sent out mail pieces that were like, Jean Stothert's focused on potties and I'm focused on fixing potholes, which is my favorite response to this nuttery. But again, it's like we keep winning these special elections. Now, some of the special election stuff is because Democrats have a lot of high propensity voters and Republicans don't, and that is a problem for them. But it is going to be a problem for them in the midterm elections because the people who turn out in midterm years are high propensity, upper middle class voters and suburban voters, and they are very, very angry right now about what's happening in this country. And meanwhile, 2 polls out in the last couple of days, Donald Trump's approval rating is below 40%, and he's underwater on every single issue, including immigration. He is not popular, and he is flailing right now, looking for any bit of progress. And that's before people even internalize the fact that Donald Trump is very likely to get us into another stupid war in the Middle East that's going to put our troops in danger. I believe he's going to get drawn into this.
I just said that to Devin earlier. Let me read from one of my notes. Basically, Iran has 90 million people in its population, and Israel has 10. And we know that the United States, well, let me put this in a non-speculative way. We've historically been partners with Israel and not with Iran. But in this particular case, Iran is saying, we're tired of you beating down on us. And inevitably, Israel's going to make the call to say, we need you. And I want to know the answer to this question as we wrap up. And I know you don't know the answer. I know you've got thoughts on it. How long is it going to be before American troops are on the ground in this fight? And that's to the point that you were making a moment ago.
I don't know, but what I do know is that if Israel continues to push forward, they simply do not have the troops to be able to lead an invasion. And the only country that does is the United States, and we are Israel's closest ally. So they will, in order to do what they're trying to do, they're going to have to find some fighting force to go do it for them, and that's going to be us if it happens. I feel the same way about this as I did with Iraq a million years ago, which is I have no love for the Iranian government. They're filled with criminals and terrorists, and I'm not going to pretend like they're not. But I worry about, one, is this the best use of American might and force at this time in our country? Two, what happens after? Because the Bush administration was so, again, I just keep using the word thirsty because it's the easiest way to describe Republicans on this. They were so thirsty to invade Iraq because they thought it was good politics for them. They thought it was going to be good opportunity for them for a variety of reasons that we don't have time to get into on this radio show. But if the John Boltons of the world and the Eagles that are around Donald Trump convince him to invade Iran, we're going to be in the same situation where we're going to be at war in the Middle East again, and we will probably, yes, take down the Iranian government, I assume, but then what comes after that?
Yep.
And we don't have a very good record of nation building in the Middle East. Nope. So it's going to be a lot of money, it's going to be a lot of blood, it's going to be a lot of time, and it's probably going to be something that creates more threats to the American people in the way that our involvement in the Soviet Union's invasion in Afghanistan is a direct creation of al-Qaeda, which leads to 9/11, and the way that our direct involvement in Iraq, top in the government, created ISIS.
My brother-in-law said something this weekend very casually, said, this makes us vulnerable in ways that a lot of regular folks don't understand, and he's a former active duty Marine. Yeah. So he understands the vulnerability that comes.
And meanwhile, we're not meeting our obligations to the people of Ukraine, who we promised to protect when they were invaded by Russia.
And by the way,
and that's important too.
What about the price of eggs and gas as it relates to this, constant gyration? Mike Nellis, y'all, once again, he and I we race to the front of the room to see who can get to the desk first. But the pace in which we talk, man, it's good to hear your voice. I'm glad you're well. Stay safe, Mike. Happy Father's Day. I'm sorry I didn't text you that yesterday, but happy belated Father's Day, and thanks for being with us, man.
Thanks. Have a great week, Richard. Appreciate you.
All right, guys, that's it. Choose Views, Monday, June 16th, 2025. As I always say, guys, take a deep breath and make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
OMG, it's the work week and back to the daily grind. Alarms, emails, kids, meetings, chores, and so on. It's exhausting. We've all experienced the stress of the daily grind, but at Total Dentistry, the daily grind is quite different. This is Dr. Anna Pellick, and grinding refers to your biting force, the stress you place on your teeth, bone, and gums that actually causes destruction. Grinding can cause increased decay by wearing away your protective outer enamel. Grinding can cause gum recession, bone loss, and jaw problems. So what can Total Dentistry do for your daily grind? There are solutions such as bite appliances. We can restore your lost tooth structure with bonding or replace gum tissue with grafts. But early diagnosis and prevention is always best. So escape your daily grind and visit Total Dentistry.